The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
The following program is closed captioned for the thinking impaired.
By tomorrow, I will rule the world!
You think he's gone? He's not gone. That's the whole point. He's never gone!
Is this some radical new therapy?
You see?
Well, I must have not been paying attention when you were just talking to me. Do you think that you could repeat the question? And I listened more attentively. There must have been something in all of that nothing that wasn't quite so easy to see. And I must have missed something when you were just talking to me.
All right, let's start off with the show with, before I say hi to everybody, let's just talk about our sponsors. So we have a celebrity guest coming in. We want every minute we can with him. So we want to thank Century 21, McLennan Real Estate, Zany, Pesci, Law Office, Pescerino, Pesh. It sounds so hard to say Pesh. Morrison and Son Construction, EIS Investigation and Gun Training. One of my favorite new sponsors, Bonfire Wellness Center in North Andover, right across the street, right across from Mad Maggie's Ice Cream. Tomo and Shaken Seafood, Clear Path for Veterans New England, AFC Urgent Care, Pleasant Valley Landscaping Contractors, Better Burger Bar, Better Burger Bar, and Harrison's Roast Beef. Formerly Patrick's Eatery, formerly Harrison's Roast Beef, formerly. Prime Insurance, Mercurio Law Office, 11 Restaurant at 226 Essex Street in Lawrence, Chris's Barbershop in Salem, New Hampshire, Enterprise Bank, I love Enterprise Bank, they're the best. W3ON, A&J Goodwin Plumbing, and we got a new sponsor coming on next week, Peralt Chiropractic in Methuen, which used to be an advertiser back in 2009 of the Valley Patriot, and they're back, and we're going to talk a lot about them, I think, next week. Let's listen to some Mel. We're waiting on our guest to show up, but he did call and say he's on his way. Also want to thank Stadium Chiropractic, long-time advertiser of the Valley Patriot. They don't sponsor the show, but I always love to give a shout-out to our long-term advertisers. Salvatore's Restaurant. Who else do you have? 4-Star Lighting.
Music Bingo, Sadie's Bar and Grill
Music
in Salem,
Bingo, right?
New Hampshire.
Right?
Yes, Music Bingo on tonight. Salem, New Hampshire, Sadie's Bar and Grill. Come on down, 6:30.
All right. Hi, how you guys doing? My name's Tom Duggan at the Paying Attention Podcast. Hi atop. Two guys smoke shop at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. Now, we had a whole show planned today. I was going to read hate mail. People have been bugging me since I started the podcast. At least twice a week, I get an email from somebody saying, Tom, you got to read your hate mail. You got to do a whole show someday on your hate mail. And so this week, I got a piece of hate mail from a woman named Effie. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but her first name was Effie from Northampton. I think it was Northampton, New Hampshire, like in that area. And it was just so stereotypical of the hate mail that I get on a regular basis that I said, you know what? I got nothing planned. Like today is the only day I had nothing, no show booked. I had no guest booked. We have an election coming up. Next week, we got Diana DeZoglio coming in. Then we got the election. And then we're going to talk about what happened at the election, after the election. So for the next 3 or 4 weeks, I'm pretty booked out. And I said, you know, I've got an open show. Instead of coming in here and talking about DJ Beauregard and how he's just letting Tina Conway, like, run the show over there and how he will only get back to members of the press that Tina Conway likes rather than being a mayor for everybody and just getting back to everybody regardless of who likes them or not. Instead of doing that for an entire show, which I could have done, I was going to come in and I was going to read you not just Effie's piece of hate mail, but also I've been compiling hate mail from my viewers and my readers and my listeners because we do have more listeners actually to the podcast than we have viewers. We're on every podcast platform, right? We're on Spotify. Are we on Spotify? I think that's the only one we might not be on.
I believe you're on all of them.
Oh, we are on Spotify. So I know we're on iTunes, iHeartRadio. We're on all of those. And so every once in a while, some unhinged liberal will stumble upon the show, and I will trigger them because they'll tune in for 5 seconds, hear one thing they don't like, and I'll get a 47-paragraph email from that person. And they're all pretty much the same, although some of them a little bit more inventive than others, which I enjoy. Like if you're going to spend the time to send me like an 8-paragraph email telling me how much I suck, which, by the way, you don't need to do. I know how much I suck. Like, you can't be me and suck as much as I do and not know it, right? So there's no need for you to go into that kind of detail. But I admire people who actually sit down and spend that much time on me as if I'm that important, right? But they all pretty much say the same thing. And once the election is over, I will come in and I will dedicate an entire show. It was supposed to be today. But we got word from our good friend Randy Carter, who is one of my best friends, who is a hero veteran, served in the Air Force and in the Army. I don't know too many guys who are veterans who served more than one branch. He did. And he called me last week and he said, Tom, here's what I want to do. And you can't announce it in advance because something might happen and we might not be able to do this. But here's my plan. I've got this guy, Lillo Brancato, and I hope I'm saying it right. I don't know if it's Lillo or Lillo, but I think it's Lillo Brancato from The Sopranos. And as soon as he said it, I knew exactly who he was talking about. And I think the first time I saw Mr. Brancato and recognized him as an incredible talent was on NYPD Blue. I used to watch NYPD Blue religiously. I've probably seen every episode 100 times. And so as soon as he told me that, he said, I'm having him come. He's coming to Dracut on October 24th. He's going to be at the VFW, and he's going to talk about addiction. And so I said, well, this is great because we're going to have an opening that day. I was going to read my hate mail, which everybody's been bugging me to do, and I was going to come in and just read my hate mail, and hopefully that's going to boost all of our – come on up, guys. Hopefully that's going to boost our ratings here on the show. And he said, no. This is the week we want to do it. That's the day he's going to be there. So I said, great. We'll have, is it Lillo or Lillo? Because I want to make sure I get it right. Lillo. It's Lillo. I thought that's what it was. So they're having an event tonight at the VFW in Dracut. It is also being sponsored by TMF, which is the organization that I'm affiliated with that helps the homeless. And Michael Gorman is also going to be speaking tonight at this event. There will be no hood boogers allowed. Trust me, there will be somebody at the door to prevent that. And also RJ Journey, our good friend Rachel from RJ Journey from Rachel's Recovery. So tonight I will be there, even though I've got to go to the dentist first. I got an abscessed tooth, so I might not be able to speak tonight. I know they asked me to speak, and I said I would. If I can, I will, but I'm not sure I'm going to be able to. So in case you don't know who Lillo Brancato is, let's pull up his picture so you recognize him. I also remember him from being in the Bronx Tale, which was a great movie, such a great movie. And he played opposite probably one of the best actors ever, even though he's become completely unhinged these days. Robert De Niro, who's just a complete nutcase these days. Like he's in his old age, has gone completely over the edge. But imagine being a young kid and getting into acting and playing opposite a guy like Robert De Niro. Like that's got to be, if nothing else, if you accomplish nothing else in your lifetime, that's like a huge thing to have when you say that again. Oh, that was his first acting job ever. Why don't you come on up? He's going to be here in a second. So we're going to have he just ran into the back room, and he's going to be here in a second. So I do want to thank our sponsors again: AFC Urgent Care, A&J Goodwin Plumbing, 4-Star Lighting, Enterprise Bank. By the way, thank you to Enterprise Bank at Karina Papalato's Overcoming Obstacles Gala last week. They invited me to sit at their table. And if you've ever hung out with the girls at Enterprise Bank, you know what a treat that is. And we had a really good time. Hopefully we're going to be able to hear from Karina Papalato from the Greater Lawrence Psychological Center and the Daybreak Homeless Shelter as to how much money they raised to help not just people who are homeless in Lawrence, but also the women from Women's View and Pegasus House, which is women who are battered women who are fleeing battered situations where like they really kind of have to go underground because their former significant others are like physically trying to kill them. So they're doing the work of the angels over there, and also Michael Gorman from TMF is doing the work of the angels of TMF. So let's just start with Randy here. Randy, why don't you start with promoting your event? That's okay. When he gets here, he gets here. He's Lillo Brancato. Who cares, right?
Yeah, we were kind of busy today. We had a lot of appearances to make.
So what I like, and by the way, Randy is formerly from Clear Path for Veterans New England, formerly from Veterans Northeast Outreach. He's a hero veteran. What was I going to say? So I lost my thought. Oh, so promote your event tonight. What is this about? Where is it? Can people come? How do they?
Yeah. So the event tonight. So over the past 15 years, I've been working with homeless veterans or veterans suffering from addiction, suffering with post-traumatic stress, and I always had the avenue. I always had the VA. I knew where to send them. I knew how to help them. Tommy and I, you and I have pulled numerous people out from the side of the road or out by the river, and it was always a way we knew how to take care of them. Well, recently I've started working at an agency called the Bridge Club of Greater Lowell. Mm-hmm.
I heard good things about them. Like prior to you working there, I heard good. Yeah. They're probably not good now because you're there. But
probably not.
Yeah,
no,
right.
Because I got a new appreciation for addiction. And I don't want to say it like that, but I understand more. I see more. I notice more. I see how addiction has it's not racist. It's not racist. It doesn't matter your financial background. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter your gender. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter your orientation.
Well, you were always the guy that was your role, your niche was helping us get veterans into housing. Right. So if we found a veteran who was in a tent on the banks of the Merrimack River, we would call you, and you would work him through the VA to get him into housing. But first, they'd have to get into addiction treatment. They'd have to get into detox. Right. But that wasn't really your specialty. Your specialty was more the housing of the veterans, right. and so now you're kind of on the front end of that. Now you're on the addiction end of that, and as anybody in this industry knows, that's the toughest place to be because the people who are addicted, 90% of them don't want help. All they can think about is their next fix. Right. They don't care about anything else. They don't care about their family, food, water, housing. All they care about is their next fix. And what we learned through Steve Gonzalo, which is the first guy that we ever helped, was that you've got to get them when they're high because they're not jonesing for their next fix. And we had this guy, Steve Gonzalo, that we were trying to help. And every day he'd say, come by tomorrow and I'll come with you. I'm a veteran. I'll come with you and I'll go to detox. We'd find him the next day, and all he wanted to do was get high, and he wouldn't come with us until the day we found him and he was already high. And that was the day he said, okay, I'm ready to go. Right. So we learned a lot, and we've all learned a lot of being in this business, if you want to call it that, about addiction. So it never gets easier, though.
It doesn't. So tonight's event is to bring more awareness where somebody could go to get help. Not so much the person who's addicted, but maybe their brother, maybe their sister, their uncle, maybe you know somebody. Because I didn't know how to deal with on the civilian side of it. I was lucky enough to have the VA to be able to send them to the VA. But if you have ordinary Joe on the side of the road who's addicted, he wants help, where do you send him?
Right.
Where do you send him? The hospital? He's out in 72 hours.
Right.
So that's what I'm promoting tonight. I'm going to have different agencies there who know how to get help for these people or know where, if I had somebody in my family that had an addiction, I wanted to get them help, I would know who to call.
And we lost a big advocate in that with Phil Leahy. So Phil was the father of a young girl that was addicted, and he started this organization to help families of people who are addicted to do exactly what you're talking about, to say, hey, look, even though they're the one addicted, you're affected too, and how do you help the person that you love? Right. And so so I'm glad to see all this is kind of coming together.
So I met Lillo about 1.5 years, 2 years ago online. We just met online. We were talking about addiction and stuff, and of course, obviously a fan of his movies, even though he sucks as a
Bronx Tale, one of the greatest movies ever made. And seriously, one of the greatest movies ever made.
But when I called him and said, listen, I'm putting on this event, the only thing he said was where and when.
That's awesome.
Where and when. And he drove up here on his own dime, and he's here to help promote that.
So, Lillo, Tom Duggan, by the way, thank you for coming on the podcast. Can you boost his audio a little bit? So as much as I have a million things I want to ask you, right? Because you've on Sopranos, you're on Bronx Tale, Crimson Tide, all the things you've done. NYPD Blue, by the way, amazing, right? Yeah. But then there's the addiction side and how you felt, and now you're trying to help other people. I don't even know where to begin. So why don't you just start with, there might be people somewhere out there watching who don't know who you are. So why don't you just start by introducing yourself and tell them, other than what I just said, who you are.
Lillo Brancato, grew up in Yonkers, New York. Where am I looking, by the way, straight ahead?
Yeah, the camera's right there.
Grew up in Yonkers, New York, middle class. Then I was plucked from obscurity on Jones Beach in 1992 to be the lead actor in Robert De Niro's directorial debut, A Bronx Tale. And then I went on to do a host of television shows and film. And then with that fast life came, a faster lifestyle with drugs and alcohol and all these things.
How old were you, by the way?
Well, when they found me for the Bronx Tale, I was 15 for another month or so.
That's
and then,
crazy.
So basically 16 is when I started.
So it came very early and very fast for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's got to be crazy because we all think about, those of us who aren't in that industry, what we were like at 15, and just imagine having that huge spotlight on everything that you do now at 15 years old. That's got to be crazy.
Yeah, it's a big responsibility. Just to have been in that film and to have played a role like that and to know, like at a young age, it's common sense to be on the set and you got 50 people on the set, light guys, gaffers, everything. And then you're thinking well, these people are here for me. So I gotta perform.
Right.
I can't let all these people down. These are men and women that come to work every day, and they're here not for me like they're, no, we're all here doing, the same thing,
right.
And we're all equal. But I'm saying, this is all what they're here is to see this acting and to light it and to make it look a certain way. So there was a lot of pressure.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure. You add some, inexperience to that. And then it could yield disastrous results.
Now, can I ask you about your family a little bit? Because I would imagine if you had a mom and dad at home, it would be a lot easier to deal with that pressure. But if you didn't, it would be a recipe for going down the wrong.
No, I did have parents, very stable parents. But, they were immigrants. My dad was a Sicilian immigrant. He was a mason, he was a builder. So they didn't know about, navigating through the movie business. Mm-hmm. They don't even, And as far as drugs, they didn't know anything about that either. They're from these small towns in Italy. That stuff doesn't really exist as it,
And it's an evil industry. I mean, they try to tempt you into doing everything wrong in the world, especially when you're young. They try and get you in early. Did you have a lot of that? Did you have a lot of people who were trying to influence you in the wrong direction at the very beginning?
I don't know yeah, of course, that's always going to come. But I don't know if it's always because, it's always intentional. I think that person has their own demons.
Right.
And I just think that they feel their best way of showing you love. Mm-hmm. By saying, hey, man, you want some of this? Not realizing because they still haven't gotten to the point to see what this is going to do and what's going to, what the disastrous, what's going to happen because of this. And then I think you both go down that path, the same way. But, yeah, that stuff is always around. It's always around. It's around now,
Well, it's far worse now, I think.
As far as what?
As far as the drugs and the bad influences and the crazy sex stuff that happens. We're hearing about P. Diddy. We're hearing about, a lot of the stuff that's going on in the Hollywood.
You're hearing about it now, but it always went on.
Oh, really? So it was always that bad back then?
So it always went on. But I think now it's actually coming to the light.
Do you want a cup of coffee or a glass of water or something?
I'll take a water.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chrissy. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Oh, do you want this one? Yeah.
It's right
Oh, there you go. See how good she is? I didn't even bother. And I'll give that one to Randy.
Tommy's actually
I'm
giving
good
me
at my
something.
job sometimes.
So I apologize for cutting you off, but
No.
I know when you're doing this media tour thing, people forget you, right? And everybody's getting their own coffee and stuff. So, so it must have been fun, but also very difficult to be that young, to have that kind of responsibility, to have all these people depending on you.
Yeah, it's pressure. It's pressure.
And also trying to have people to try and guide you in the road. So,
and also, you also want to be a kid of that age. You want to live a normal life too.
Right.
So that's in there too, right?
Yeah.
Summer vacations. Going to the Jersey Shore with your friends because that's what we did. We're from Yonkers, New York. We used to go to Seaside Heights. We used to go to Belmar, New Jersey. That's all on the shore.
The parties you must have been at. Parties you must have seen. The stuff you must have seen.
I've seen some of it, but I really didn't enjoy that. I didn't enjoy the Hollywood thing. I just felt out of place. I didn't like it. I don't know. It's just something I never really. It was never really that seductive to me.
Right.
I mean, I did the drugs and stuff like that, but it didn't need to be at those parties. I could do it. I just didn't. I mean, they were okay. I've seen some crazy parties.
Right.
You know, being in some Hollywood mansion for 3 days, smoking freebase, you know, walking around the house, you know, paranoid schizophrenia, you know, and seeing
but before we get into the drugs, I got to ask you this, because as soon as Randy told me that we were going to try and get you on the podcast, my very first thought was, well, he knew Robert De Niro, even if it was just kind of through work. Was he as nutty then as he is now? Because he seems like he's kind of gone off the edge now. But was that still his personality back then? Because we only saw the guy on screen. We only know the guy that's on screen. Like with most actors, you have no idea what they're really like in real life.
You know,
I don't want to get you in trouble, but I'm curious.
I mean, listen, he's sticking up and he's standing up for something that he believes in.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't like Trump, and that's what he believes and what he likes. And whether he's right or wrong, or whether I agree with that or not, you know, either way. But I'm saying you got to always respect someone that is willing to do that. Someone of that stature is willing to do that and go out there and be vocal about that. You got to respect that. Some people may look at it different, but this is what he believes in, and this. I
respect everybody's opinion. I think people are more judging him now the way he's doing it. You know, the bombast of it. You know, we all have our opinions, but we're not all ready to punch somebody in the face. You know,
I've never seen that side of him.
Right.
You know, he was very nurturing. We did the movie. He directed it, so he kind of took me under his wing, and it was about the material and about bringing the most out of that material. It was his directorial debut, so he was learning too as he was going on.
Right.
You work with, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, obviously he's worked with so many, Coppola, Scorsese, and and I'm sure he's learned so much along the way.
Like regardless of his politics, he's one of the greatest actors
to
ever
live. No doubt about that. There's no doubt about that. His
Right.
movies, his body of work, I probably got to say, he's probably the best.
Yeah.
Name an actor that's done better movies. You could argue if you think they're a better actor or not than De Niro. But as far as a body of work and all of his movies combined, there's nobody on the planet
and people forget,
that has a better body of work than Robert De Niro.
I agree.
I love Al Pacino, but his doesn't even come close.
I agree. I totally agree.
De Niro's...
And if you were to read all of the movies...
And that says something.
I agree. Let's talk about the addiction. When did you fall off? At what point did it become at what point did you realize that, okay, I'm on a runaway train here and I can't get off?
Well, we started with the cocaine in like 94. I was like 18. And I remember we used to do it recreationally. And then like by 95, 96, 97, I'd see some of my friends, like a lot of my friends, they just started maturing. And they stopped, I don't really want to do that anymore. Or, get a girlfriend and go in a different path. But for me, it's like I just kept yearning for more. And then I saw... Like it would just be like a random like Tuesday, and I'm like drinking vodka out of a bottle, and I got cocaine on my hardcover yearbook from 8th grade from Mount St. Michael. I'll show you, it's all lines all over from cutting the shit because I had the hard surface and I used to hide it under my bed. And when I was doing that on a Tuesday night, and just like Letterman's on, and I'm just drinking vodka, I said this is a problem.
Right.
When I knew I couldn't tell my friends about it. Like when, I was with some girl, we were sniffing coke, like that's all cool. But when it got to the point where I couldn't tell them anymore, they're like, what are you telling us that for? Then I knew it was a problem, and it just got worse and worse and worse and worse.
So you're in that position now where you're on. One of the reasons I'm asking questions like this is we have a lot of homeless people who watch us who are addicted because I work with TMF. And Mike Gorman's going to be speaking tonight, the head of the organization that I work with. And I want them to relate to you. I want them to see themselves in you. And a lot of them are at that point now where they're just starting to realize, oh, my God, I'm in a position in life now where I just can't help myself. When you got to that point, when you realized this was a runaway train, there's nothing I can do, how did you handle that?
The way I handled that initially was just remained and kept hopeful that one day it would just go away. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's just something that's age appropriate right now. Maybe it's just being young. And, I was hoping that one day I would outgrow it. But I saw that it wasn't something that you outgrow. It's just something that if you don't treat it, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and its goal is to kill you. That's nothing, that's what addiction does. Drug addiction and alcohol addiction. There's other addictions.
Right.
I mean, if you're addicted to working out, that's not going to kill you unless you, putting weight that's going to crush your chest.
Right, right.
But, yeah, that's what
you're on the runaway train.
Right.
Like I'm trying to get into your head now where you're on this runaway train. You realize you can't control it anymore. And
it was toward the end. I would say in 05. All those years I remained hopeful. And I got addicted to narcotic pain medication. I jumped out of a car one night. I was high on cocaine, and I was all paranoid because I used to get like real paranoid, think my friends are going to kill me, think there's people in the wall. And I'd be like this for days.
Right.
So I literally jumped out of a car doing 60 miles an hour. I still got the scar right on my head.
Wow.
And scraped my whole back up, everything. It was bad. And that's when I got introduced to the narcotic pain medication. And then I started doing those.
And what did they give you? Was it Perks? Was it Oxys?
No. That stuff was barely around then. The hydrocodone, Vicodin.
Okay. Yeah, Vicodin.
They gave me like this 5s or 7 5s.
Right.
And, with my addictive personality and my nature, I would take one, and then when one don't work, I go to 3, not to 2. And then when I did 3, I was like, wow, this is pretty good. It's pretty good.
Right.
And, they just... And then I went to look in the medicine drawers. My family, you go to the dentist, they give you a prescription, you take 1 or 2, and then they're in there. And I'm like, wow, I got a whole bundle.
Sure.
So then I just kept taking them. I had the little Dixie cup. I'm smoking cigarettes in my room, itching. Who's better than me?
Now, what was your family doing at this point when you're on this runaway train, there's nothing you can do, you don't think there's anything you can do? Were they aware of this, or they knew? They knew, and did they try to help, or were they?
Of course, but it's past the point where they couldn't help. They knew that I was the only one that could help myself. So all they did was sit down and watch me self-destruct and sit and cry. Like I've done stuff like I got so bad. Like it's like my parents were afraid of what I'd become. They were afraid. Like I'll give you a perfect example. Like this is a movie scene. This is perfect. This is November of 2005. I got arrested December 10th, 2005. So this is, I believe, November 28th, 2005. I'm like a stone cold crackhead, and I would get paranoid. I'd see people running down the street, insane stuff. And I'm a heroin addict, too. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I have no problem climbing through somebody's window at this point, robbing their house. This is what I had become. My father and brother, because that's hunting season, they're in the mountains. They live for that. My brother still goes hunting. My father passed away. So it's just me and my mom. Mm-hmm. And my mom's old school. She's from, she's Italian. She's old school. She's on the sewing machine. She's crying on the sewing machine, trying to get her mind off of the insanity in the house. I'm running from one room to the other. Ma, there's people coming. I got a butcher knife in my hand. I'm running from room to room. My mother knows nobody's coming, but I'm seeing people running down the street. Then they come to the car for a few seconds. Then they run down a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And this is what I'm seeing. Now, Ma, I got my shirt off, sweating. You know what I mean? Ma, no, there's nobody coming, please. This is real. You know what a scene that would be in a movie?
Right.
Watching Mom at the sewing machine, like that's so authentic and real.
Right.
And the guy's running
especially
through the
for an Italian family.
Yeah, but
right?
it's real.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so at that point, what is my mother going to do? Nothing. She's going to sit and cry just like she did. She's helpless. She's almost more helpless than me because I'm the one in the driver's seat. You're in the passenger seat dealing with this shit. You're in the same car when we're about to crash the same way, but I got control. You don't. So you're worse off than me. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's what was going on there. And I want fucking money. It's my money. I did movies. I want my fucking money. No, there's nothing. She would tell me how my father took all the money out of the house. Like, it was insane. My poor mother, what I put.
So was this when you hit rock bottom? Was this like, this was the...
Well, that was right there. But no, I don't think that was it. Even like, a month later when we were there that night and, went to the house and then the off-duty police officer came out of his house, started shooting, shot me first, and then a gunfight ensued when I was already gone. And the person I was with ultimately shot the police officer, killed him. But we both got shot. He got shot 9 times. The guy I was
But they didn't charge you because you weren't there.
What do you mean?
Like when he shot the cop, I was
charged.
Oh,
yeah. I was charged with
charged.
second-degree murder.
Okay. Wow.
Not an accessory. I was charged with second-degree murder,
Wow.
felony murder.
Just for being there.
Right. No, well, when you attempt to commit, you commit in furtherance or in immediate flight therefrom. It results in you committing a felony, and it results in the death of a non-participant. That's felony murder.
Wow.
You don't have to pull the trigger. If you rob an old lady's purse and she dies of a heart attack, you may as well shoot her in the head. You're going to get the same exact time.
Wow.
Okay?
Wow.
I'll give you a perfect felony murder case. Guy two masked gunmen. Trust me, if somebody was in trouble with that, I've studied that. I could represent them in court. I'm not even kidding.
I might need you.
Trust me, if it was those exact charges, I guarantee you I could represent them in court.
Tommy needs a lawyer all the time.
I know
on a regular basis.
But these two masked gunmen, right? They go into a bodega in Washington Heights. It's a Dominican section of New York, right in lower Manhattan. No, upper Manhattan, right next to the Bronx. Lower is all the way the other way. Two guys go in. They go in to rob the store. The guy who owned the place, the Dominican guy, he's got a gun right there. But it's a legal gun, and he has it to protect his business and to do exactly what he's going to do. It's a license for that. Boom, shoots the guy. He misses. He hits the wall. It ricochets outside, and it kills a little girl. Okay? Who gets charged with that murder?
Both guys.
The store owner.
No. The masked gunman.
Right.
Really?
That's the robbery. That caused that death.
Oh, okay.
He's a legal gun. What did he do wrong?
Yeah, no, he didn't.
He's defending himself.
If those guys if they didn't rob the store, it would not resulted in the death of a non-participant, which was the girl.
Right.
You take away the robbery, there's no death. You're going to jail. It's the same thing as if you went out there and shot that little girl. You're going to get charged the same way. So now they're saying we were in the commission of a burglary, okay, which it wasn't. Okay, I have ample proof. Okay, ample proof. I'll tell you right now. Okay, when you're on the scene of a crime, and stuff is said, those are not statements. Those are what's called spontaneous utterances, and they hold a lot of weight because they stem from the subconscious. You're not thinking; you're just reacting.
You're not thinking about
you're in survival mode.
Right.
Your fight or flight has kicked in. I got shot 3 times. I didn't even feel it in the beginning. Okay. Now the house I was going to, he lived next door. His name was Kenny Scavodi. He was a Vietnam veteran. Okay, 47 when I first met him. The kid from the Bronx Tale lived next door, and I used to date his sister back in the day. This veteran used to have pills in his house. He had Valium. He had everything. They would give him everything, okay? When I used to fight with my girlfriend, he would leave the garage door open. He was like fucked up from the war. He was like Rain Man. Yeah, all right. He was like Rain Man. Kenny, we loved the guy, right? He would leave the garage door open, and I would just walk in. He would see me on his couch in the middle of the night going to use the bathroom, and he'd say, "What's the matter? Trouble in paradise? Me and my girl, you guys fighting again?" Right? He would drive us around, Nathan's, play video games. You had to see when we had the picture of us in the booth. The DA was like, "Oh, my God, where did they get that picture?" That case was nothing. I shouldn't have even got that time. That's the guy's honest truth. I'm going to show you now in case, this is real stuff. Think if you're a juror and you hear what I'm about to tell you and you tell me if you would still convict me. Okay. So I knew Kenny from that. So now I haven't seen this guy in all these years. I'm desperate. Yeah, I broke his window, but I know you got drugs. And I know once you see it's me, Lillo, you're going to let me in. I'll pay for your window.
Right.
You're going to give me the pills. You gave them to me when I was a kid. What makes you think I could give them to me as a 30-year-old man?
Right.
Okay? That's nothing. So now, yeah, the window was broken, I was calling him. He never answered, obviously. He died in July, but I hadn't seen him in all those years. He was in the next neighborhood from where I was buying drugs. Okay? He died of HIV. Okay, so I don't know if it was from dope or if he was homeless. It doesn't matter. Okay. I'm leaving because he didn't answer. The window's broken, the screen's on the floor, the whole thing. But I'm walking away from the thing. And you could see my blood is over there. Why would you? The window's here, and I'm just get shot here. Cop comes from the basement of the house. I used to be with my ex-girlfriend in that basement where he lived to do our laundry. That's the window. You realize this? Okay, so now he says, "Don't move." I turn, boom, 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 shoots me, right? 3 shots right here.
Wow.
Okay, unarmed. Okay? So I'm bleeding. I got blood squirting through my fingers. Okay? I'm walking away fast because I don't know who this guy is. Never said he was a cop. It just happened so fast. Okay? So now as I'm going, and I'm already halfway down the sidewalk, there's more gunshots. This guy, I never saw this guy had a gun. He was my ex-girlfriend's father. We weren't friends. I was only hanging out with him because my ex-girlfriend knew I was a junkie and she was leaving me. She was going to medical school. She didn't want to be with me anymore.
Right.
So he was the only way I could go there and they don't call the cops.
Right.
I would say, "I'm here to hang out with your father." It wasn't like we were boys and we used to do the same shit. This guy was crazy.
Right.
But he was my only shot to be with my girl. Right? So he's not going to say, "Hey, look, I got a gun." He must have had it on him before. But he never had to use it, so he didn't show it. Right? I'm walking down the sidewalk. I'm shot and I'm bleeding. Okay, I'm fighting for my life. So now I start screaming, Kenny! Kenny! Right there, you know it's not a burglary, okay? This is me if I was my own lawyer, right? You're not thinking of who you're calling from, right? A burglary is if you felt like you had license or privilege, because what a burglary is, you knowingly enter and remain unlawfully, so you know you're not supposed to be in, and you go in with the intent to commit a crime therein. So the purpose of the unlawful entrance is to go commit another crime. That's why burglary, you get a lot of time. Right. It's 2 crimes in one. It's thought out, right? But if you felt that you had license or privilege to be there, it's not a burglary. Even though you broke the window, but even if you knew the guy when he sees you, everything's cool, it's not a burglary, okay? So now, this is what I would argue. I'm walking down, I'm screaming. I'm about to die. You know how much blood I lost? At every step, my legs felt like they were going to give out and got a little weaker. So I'm screaming, Kenny, right? If I'm my lawyer, I would say, okay, well, why would he scream Kenny? Not, cop, my police, mommy. Or why didn't he scream for the guy he was with, Armento? Why did he scream for Kenny? Because he felt that they were friends. And subconsciously, without any thought, in survival mode, that is where he felt that he would have his best legitimate shot at getting help.
Right.
So that tells right there that we are friends. I'm not going to scream for a guy subconsciously that I'm trying to rob in a malicious way as the way you're saying it. Right. You can't argue with that. You can't. How can you argue with that? You've never saw that in the paper. I bet you didn't even know I was shot.
No, I didn't.
Right?
Right.
But this is the case. Now you're hearing it from another side.
Right.
Okay? Yeah, it's a dead cop, and that's a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing when there's dead person in general.
Right,
yeah,
sure.
General. But a cop, you know what I mean? Listen, they, put their lives on the line every day, and you got to respect them. You know what I mean? But like anything, there's good cops, there's bad cops, there's good firemen, there's bad firemen. So
is this when you decided to get clean? Like you go through all of this and you look back and you go,
no, still not yet.
Wow.
No, because now I'm charged with murder, and now I'm charged with felony murder and all this stuff, and I'm heroin addict, coming off drugs, and I'm still fiending for drugs in jail. I wanted to get bail just so I could go home and get high.
Wow.
Yeah, not even for Christmas or anything else. So it was like it was a very tough time for myself, my family. My dad needed a heart transplant. He was so stressed out. So yeah, it was a lot of bad. Not only to their family but ours as well.
Right.
And
How did you get clean? How did you? A lot of people out there.
I was doing drugs in jail.
Clean.
I was doing drugs in jail. I was doing morphine. I was doing heroin. November 12, 2006, I overdosed in my cell, unintentionally. Getting drugs, like I said, at church, and then I got drugs, so I did so much that day. And I overdosed in my cell, and you would think still that would be rock bottom. It wasn't. I kept going and going. I had they taped my scene off as a crime, my cell as a crime scene. Okay, it was an investigation. They were coming to search my cell 3 times a day, and you would think that would stop you. I was still getting it. And then one day, I got an attorney visit from my mentor, Corey Rabin, and my cousin Pat. Like, attorney visits could be any day of the week. Corey's in recovery too, my mentor. He's been in recovery, 1982. He's a lawyer that my dad used to do real estate. He's a real estate lawyer. My dad's a builder, so we used to use him. He's been friends with the family. He's his father, Judge Rabin, rest in peace. They've been friends with the family since the 70s. So Corey's took me under his wing. I just had dinner with him last week, and they came to see me because they heard what happened, and they were very disappointed. And I remember seeing Corey's face. Because when I see them, I'm handcuffed to the thing. Yo, guys, what's up? He said, what the hell are you doing? These people, we love you. We want to see you beat this case. You keep doing this shit. No one's going to be here for you. And I remember that day, boom, snapped.
It clicked.
Yeah, and I never, ever thought of doing drugs again. Never. And I told myself that was the turning point and that I would never do it, and I've stayed like that. That's why you can't tell yourself that I'm an addict and forever. You're never going to get better if you do that.
How did you get clean? There's a lot of people.
I got clean because I wanted it. And when he said that, it just boom, the lights came on.
Was it like a moment of clarity?
Yeah, it was like, boom, the lights came on. I realized everything that was important in that one moment. When I left that visit, I just felt like I was so liberated. Like something was lifted off. Now I could really live my life.
But did you have to go through a recovery program, or did you just... Pure will, you just decided.
Just pure will.
I'm just not doing this anymore.
Listen, pure will. I mean, yeah, I was getting drugs inside, but it wasn't as much as I wanted.
Right.
When I could get it, I get it. So it wasn't the most conducive environment, But if, like I said, where there's a will, there's a way. I could have gotten high. But no, there was no program. I had to do it, and I wanted to do it.
So what is your advice to people who today are addicted to heroin, the fentanyl, all the stuff that's out today that you probably didn't even have to deal with back then?
Well, fentanyl, when I got shot. They gave it to me.
Really?
Yeah, because I was a heroin addict, and fentanyl's 20 times stronger than morphine.
Wow.
So the morphine didn't work.
Oh.
I was administered morphine, fentanyl, Ativan, and Versed. I was on life support and all that. And they did the two because of that. So now, but with this fentanyl, because I'm at More Life Recovery in New Jersey, and these kids, they're not dying accidentally. Well, a lot of them are, but a lot of them, they hear it's fentanyl and they want that. Heroin's like a thing of the past.
Right.
Now. You know that, right? It's like a thing of the past.
They used to cut the heroin with the fentanyl, and now it's the other way around.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have for people who are going through this themselves now? They want to get help. They don't think that there's a way to get there. How do you inspire them to do that?
Okay. I say don't psychologically psych yourself out and tell yourself that you have some illness that doesn't go away, because that doesn't help you at all, because it does go away.
It's not a disease.
No, definitely not. That's the worst. That's the most self-defeating thing that anyone in recovery could say to themselves.
God bless you for saying that, because I deal with that every day.
Go get somebody who's got stage 4 pancreatic cancer and see how fast he'll trade his disease for yours.
Right.
It's not a disease.
Right.
I say, listen, the hardest part is the beginning, because it's not saying yes or no, I want to do drugs anymore. It's about a whole lifestyle change. I can't be with these people anymore in these places doing these things. So it's like your whole life gets shaken up. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people they're just too comfortable. Forget about the drugs and the alcohol. They're just too comfortable setting their ways other than that. So you're asking them to not only do the drugs, but also do that. But you have to do it for yourself.
Right.
It's going to require some mental strength, some discipline, which is the daily driver of motivation.
Were your parents still taking your calls?
Oh, of course. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And I tell people this all the time, because we had a kid named Jeff. Jeff Driscoll was on the show. He's a homeless veteran who's addicted. And we used to deal with him on the streets all the time. And he'd ask me for my phone. I want to call my mom in Florida. And he'd say to him, you've got an 80% chance of getting out of this because your parents still take your calls. Right? Am I right about that?
Yeah.
So your parents took your calls. And did that help you psychologically, motivate you to try and get clean, to try and get back on that path?
Absolutely. Because, the way I've always saw it, I love analogies. Because when you break them down in a certain way, people understand them and they're just able to think deeper about whatever it is. I look at recovery as a ladder. You got 10 steps, right? When you have that support, you have the people that take your phone calls, the people that send you money, the people that visit you, right? So when you're climbing that ladder, they're right behind you. Mm-hmm. So say if you do slip, right, and you fall, you'll only maybe fall a step. They got you. Mm-hmm. So it's very easy to keep going because you only lost a little, right? Mm-hmm. But you got somebody who their family doesn't answer their calls. They don't get money in their books. They got to work for that whatever few bucks the state gives them, $8 in 2 weeks. But don't, 17 cents for a thing of soup. You could do okay, but still. You know what I mean? So it's like, now they're climbing that ladder too. Say they got to the 8th step and they don't have that person. Say they dealing with some bullshit that their lawyer told them or something happened. Where if that happened to me, I could go call my mom. Yeah, Mom, spoke to Joe today. He said that they're going to add another charge or whatever it is, right? And my mother, please don't do anything stupid. We love you. If we got to get another lawyer, you know what I mean? They're saying all the right things, right, Randy, to keep you going. Like, God forbid anything happens. My mom just reassured me that it's going to be okay one way or another, right? So you keep going. And say if somebody's got heroin on the block, based just on what your mom said, that support that she gave you, that you don't need to get out of your own head to alter this pain because it's not that painful. Mom just told you everything's going to be okay one way or another. So don't be an asshole in there and go make shit worse. That's basically what she's saying.
I could talk to you.
And you'll do the right thing, right? And then, right, when you do the right thing, you reap the benefits of doing the right thing. Now you don't owe anybody money, this and that. Your brain recognizes that, and it starts rewiring. That's why you're not always going to be that person. When you start not doing drugs and you start waking up to Sunday and you're able to work out and you're able to do this, Your brain recognizes that, and it starts rewiring. So there's no way, oh yeah, if I miss a meeting, I'll relapse. You've been in the program 30 years, bro. Your brain is probably so rewired that there's not even a possibility of that happening.
Right.
So don't go tell the next guy, because he may look at it in a different way and not get discouraged and not even want to get to 30. He can't even make it to that because of what you just said, that this is going to be like this. It's not. Your brain changes with every experience. It's called neuroplasticity. Let's listen to science, not to what some people's opinions are.
Right.
It's science. Let's encourage people. Do the right thing. Stay on the right path. Reap those benefits of being a good person, of making good decisions. And eventually it becomes easier. You said it becomes harder. It doesn't. It becomes easier.
Really?
There's no way. How's it going to become harder? Listen, okay, you answer me this question. If, say, your mom died, right? As time goes on, does it get easier? It gets easier.
It does. It gets easier.
What's the difference with that?
Right.
It's the same thing. It gets easier. Why people got to think it's harder? Right. It's not harder. They're saying, what am I doing this for if this is only going to get harder? They'll never get to that. It gets easier. You become accustomed to a new life that doesn't have that shit in it.
Right.
Then you get addicted to working out. You think I'm going to go do drugs now? If I do drugs, you see all these veins? They won't be there.
Right.
I'll be some skinny little guy. This addiction takes precedence over that one. So just switch it. It never gets harder. It gets easier. Come on.
I could talk to you all day.
No, but I'm saying,
we're
like,
out of time.
I know, but go ahead. Yeah, okay.
Well, and listen, I really could. I could listen to you all day. I'm going to come tonight. I'm going to videotape it tonight. I would definitely want to be there to. And would you come back? I'd love to have you back on a day when maybe we've got a little bit more time and we can explore this a little more, because I love your story and I love listening to your stories. But I'm even more interested in the people that we deal with every day at TMF, who are on the streets of Lawrence, who are on the streets of Lowell, who need some kind of inspiration to get back out of their head to try and get better. Because
and telling them they're going to be fucked up with a disease for the rest of their life, that's going to get them off the streets.
Right,
yeah, okay.
Well, that's why I want.
Nonsense.
That's why.
Nonsense.
That's why people like you are so important.
Yeah, I'm living proof. I know what I knew what made me go the right way.
Right.
And it wasn't that. When I went to meetings, I see these guys 30, 40 years. I'm like, what is he still here for? Is that going to be me? Please, get me out of here. It didn't help me. The guy that I seen that doesn't go to meetings, he's out there, he's got fucking huge business, beautiful family. That's inspirational.
Right.
And I think if you'd help hold people back, it doesn't get harder, it gets easier.
Right.
Okay, like life, you work hard, right?
Up, Melvin Taylor. Randy, why don't you promote tonight's event? If you want to come see Lillo Brancato from Bronx Tale, from The Sopranos, and my favorite performance, NYPD Blue.
Gary Montanari.
Right. Tonight at the, why don't you?
It's at the American Legion in Dracut, 7 o'clock. Come on down. We got some great prizes. One of the big prizes for auction is 2 tickets to any concert event in Massachusetts next year.
And I want to thank our sponsors. Long list of sponsors. We love our sponsors. They keep us going. Century 21 McLennan Real Estate, the Zany Pesci Law Office, Marston & Son Construction, EIS, Investigation and Gun Training. My favorite new sponsor, Bonfire Wellness Center in North Andover, Tomo and Shaken Seafood, Clear Path for Veterans New England, AFC Urgent Care, Pleasant Valley Landscaping Contractors, Better Burger Bar and Harrison's Roast Beef, Prime Insurance. The list gets longer and longer. 11 Restaurant, 226 Essex Street in Lawrence. Chris's Barbershop, Enterprise Bank, W3ON, and A&J Goodwin Plumbing. Thank you, Christy, for letting me go over. I kept looking up, and I know the time was over. And hopefully we'll have you. Will you come back?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd love to have you back. And Randy, thank you for helping facilitate this. This was great.
I just came to see Christy.
Sounds like Melvin Taylor says you got to go home, so go home already.
All right.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.